Welcome back to the Fleeting Conversations podcast, streaming to you live all across the interwebs and also available in Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Fleeting Conversations. I'm your host, Matthew Leffler. We are talking about a brand new problem facing our supply chain. Oh, wait, that's wrong. There's nothing new, no new problems. There's just problems that have been around for a very long time, but technology is evolving to solve those problems. And that's what we'll be talking about with my very special guest, Paul Burgoyne, in just a few minutes. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about some housekeeping things. Folks, you know this is happening. The Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference is coming up September 30th through October 2nd, 2024 in Chicago, the Weston River North, #Inland24. I will be speaking there about non-competition agreements, post-employment restrictive covenants. You love them, you have them, and we're going to dive deep into what they're all about and the current landscape that's in front of us when it comes to post-employment restrictive covenants. In addition, I have to thank my friends at DAT, Dial a Truck. I got that hat sitting right there on the bust of Apollo, kind of near my chamber door. Look, DAT has some great things going on right now. Since 1978, they've been helping truckers find freight, find loads to get home or get to the next destination. And right now, if you are a DAT customer and a trucker, you have part of a new program they're calling Gear Up. Gear Up has automatically upgraded you from your initial tier subscription to the next level up. And that will go on through October 23rd. On October 24th, everything reverts back to its initial setup. You're back to the tier you were at previously, but you've had a chance to really enjoy all of the different features that are available with the new Gear Up initiative. I'm always happy to have that sponsor and partner with us on the podcast. Look, what I do is try to bring information and insights to people about the industry that I found myself in. Many people know me as the Armchair Attorney. Not a lot of people know me as a maintenance guy, but that's really at its core what I've been involved with for most of my career. Commercial vehicles are important for every single thing that happens in this economy, whether it's getting something to your store shelf or to your doorstep. Everything comes on a truck. And the way to safely deliver freight on time and undamaged is good preventative maintenance practices. I love maintenance. My dad was a roadway guy back in 1976. That's a couple of years before deregulation. He spent 15 years or so with roadway before going to a company called Airborne. Airborne was later acquired by DHL. But my dad's business was about fixing commercial equipment. And his first customer was one of his longest running customers, a company called RPS, Roadway Package Systems. RPS eventually became FedEx Ground. And we operated over 6 different full brick and mortar shops, 40 mobile service trucks, over 100 technicians, helping truckers preventatively maintain their equipment. But what happens when things go wrong? What is the life of a driver when it comes to something breaking down on the asset that they're utilizing? All the things begin typically with driver report. Maybe it's a report from the engine, it's a check engine light, you have to do something. Then you have to find a service provider. Maybe you're calling your dispatcher saying, hey, I'm broke down, I need help. Maybe I'm going through different spreadsheets or looking at Google. How do you find the right provider? That challenge has been part of and parcel to transportation since the very beginning. Because these big motor vehicles, they are designed to operate, but they also fail. That's the nature of wear and tear. And when things go wrong, what do you do? This is why I'm so excited today to talk with Paul Burgoyne, the founder of Reach Vantage Solutions. Reach is an application, it's a platform that connects drivers with maintenance professionals, giving visibility into what is happening in your maintenance supply chain. This industry is mesmerizingly massive. Every single year, over 100 billion, that's billion with a B, is spent in the repair and maintenance of Class 6, Class 7, Class 8, and trailers. All this is to say that It's really, really important to keep your vehicles operating safely and to maintain them proactively. But even when you can't maintain them proactively or just something breaks, the innovation that is now available to so many drivers is mind-boggling. It's just beginning. We're just in the infancy of what I call connected services, where you're able to get more visibility into the maintenance events that are taking place for you. We know more about the status of a pizza than we know about the status of the mechanic coming to change your tire, fix your lights, change a mud flap. I mean, it's all about the BLTs, brakes, lights, and tires. And I always gravitate towards people that have built a solution designed for drivers to drive uptime for the asset and a better experience driving a truck. Look, driving a truck is one of the most common professions in nearly every state in the union. Every single thing that you have comes on those trucks. And when things go wrong, you have to know who to call. And today, you're going to learn about a company that's solving this problem right now. Right now. So, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to my friend, Paul Burgoyne. Paul, how are you?
Matt, good afternoon. How are you?
I am so excited to talk with you. I have been following the journey of you and your company for a little bit of time. But for those who don't know you, who are you? What do you do?
Well, I'm Paul Burgoyne. I'm the CEO of Vantage Solutions, which has built Reach as a platform. My personal history, Matt, I've been in the transportation segment since the late 90s. Yes, it's true. And I spent a lot of my time cutting my teeth in the intermodal segment of class 6, 7, and 8. And people will ask me, what is intermodal? Is that like the trains and the ships and stuff like that? I'm like, yeah, it's part of that universe that helps get your bananas to your table, but you don't really know about it. But so cut my teeth in intermodal, and I've been in that space. And Reach really started, it wasn't even called Reach, Matt, but we started our journey as a small team back in 2015. And that's where we've been since. So,
well, I loved the initial focus on intermodal. So in my past life, I maintained equipment for Schneider with their intermodal division. Same with the folks at JB Hunt with their chassis. And then, of course, you have these massive companies like DCLI, FlexiVan, and Track that have hundreds of thousands of chassis. So intermodal is one of these really interesting pieces that most people don't think about when it comes to transportation. But my way of explaining intermodal is if it goes on more than one format of transportation, so it goes from a boat onto a chassis, we're talking intermodal. You're going from a boat to a train. We're talking intermodal. And so much comes in from those ports all across the country. So you really can't do anything without touching intermodal at some level. What got you started with intermodal? What was the part that made you interested in that aspect of the supply chain?
So early in my career, I worked for McGriff Industries, which is a Bridgestone tire dealer, and who was also their footprint was massive, still is in the intermodal space. They were handling bias type tires, radial tires, and were very focused on the intermodal segment. So that's kind of how I got my exposure to intermodal.
Well, I like the intermodal space because it begins with like the most fundamental parts of, I like to look at them as trailers. It's a subframe. It's a suspension system. It's tires, lights, mud flaps, and like that's it. Like the boxes are important, the locking pins are important, but like it's fundamentally a trailer of sorts. And were you doing services on those pieces of equipment? Or are you doing tires? What was the part you were doing with?
Well, tires predominantly, but I was exposed, of course, to the whole maintenance challenge, which I'm grateful for, right? And I'm grateful that in the intermodal space, Matt, you almost always have the driver works for an entity who's different than the owner of the container, who's different than the owner of the chassis that you put the container on, who's different than the repair vendor, who's different than the rail or port terminal operator, right? So you just have this confluence of shareholders that are stakeholders that are involved in the process. So in your mind, you think the driver has a problem with the tire, piece of cake. It's not. It's challenging. It's complex.
I think you really did a good job at kind of explaining all of the different stakeholders that are involved with intramodal repair and maintenance. To your point, the chassis is owned by one entity. The truck is usually owned by another entity, probably an owner operator, but it could be a different fleet of any on any size. The container's owned by somebody different. And you have to orchestrate all of this to say, okay, what's wrong? What happened? And then what did we do to fix it? I mean, we all talk about the 3 C's: complaint, cause, correction. So you're watching this in real time. This is all done, by the way, for anyone who's watching, manually. This is phone calls. This is emails came on later, but you're phone calling, you're faxing, taking pictures. When did you say, this is absurd, I want to make it better?
Well, interestingly, I didn't say it, but I listened to it. And you had mentioned Schneider. So the good folks in Green Bay called me up. I was doing some consulting work, process consulting, et cetera. And the long story short, Matt, is having spent time up there with them, they were having a very specific pain point with chassis tires, particularly bias type tires. Now, as a footnote here, Schneider is an extremely well-run organization. And in 2015, they were well-run, but they were dealing with this different animal called a tube type bias tire. And what it did was illustrate the pain points involved when something happens, planned or unplanned, in regards to maintenance. Who has the parts? Who has the availability and the technicians? How do you locate? What is the workflow involved so that you can get your driver and your freight back and running? That was the genesis of this thing called Reach. So I reached out to my friend and CIO and co-founder, Ash Gar, and I said, hey, dude, let's build something and help Schneider. And that is literally the genesis of where we are today.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, the thing I love about entrepreneurs, especially, founders of any type of company, is your love of the problem. You passion for saying, okay, what's the pain point? How can I solve that? How long did it take from understanding that problem to building out the initial prototype or MVP for the product?
Let's call it a year, but let's be humble here. Let me be humble and say that it was nothing compared to what it is now. Yeah. And I can take you through some of that, but let's call it a year. And then Schneider, we start doing some blocking and tackling. An interesting footnote here is we all need luck, right? And I think we got lucky because somebody got unlucky. There was a driver broken down in the Pacific Northwest for 13 hours in the cold with a load because of the ever-present challenges of getting someone out there quickly to repair it. And the CEO at the time, Chris Lofgren, found out about it. And I think what happened is he put a lot of pressure on the organization. Let's fix this problem. So that's how we got started in the 2015, 2016 timeframe. It wasn't even called Reach at that point.
Well, I love it. It begins with the problem the driver faces. So, I mean, we talk about my world of friend of maintenance, schedule a service, get it completed, and not hopefully touch the asset until the next scheduled service.
Right.
But when things break down, what do you do? And the reality is you're making phone calls all across that area trying to find somebody. And you've built an application. Now let's talk about what it is today. So what is Reach today?
So we like to think of ourselves as a backbone. We are a platform that is multi-tenant. So it allows, Matt, for different stakeholders. You might be a fleet that owns your equipment. You might be a call center. You might be a service provider. You might be an equipment manufacturer. You might be a shipper even who just wants to watch. And so what Reach provides for is that you can all play a part in the game, depending on who you are. And the essence of Reach is A, drivers, be technicians. The whole goal here is equipment uptime so that drivers are more productive and have a better experience, and technician optimization. So more jobs per technician per day. And so our COO, Rahul, he's a brilliant dude. And he likes to think of Reach today, Matt, as a stock exchange. So you have fleets that want to buy stock, and you have providers who want to sell stock. What Reach is trying to do is make it very fluid for this to happen. I want to buy something, Matt, sell it to me.
Yeah.
Don't make me phone and email and play ping pong. I want to buy it, you sell it. So that's what Reach is today for, we're actually class 1 through 8, but our focus today is really 4 through 8, Matt.
Well, what I love about this analogy of a stock exchange, I almost think of it like a service load board. I mean, the folks at DAT, I hope they're paying attention here. But the idea of aggregating capacity. So if I'm a service provider, what I really want to know is, where's my next job going to come from? Now, I had a company, we outsourced was from 1991 until 2018, and I'm using everything to find customers. I'm calling people directly. I list myself on NTTS. I go to all these different breakdown providers and I say, here's what I can do for you. But there's no way for me to communicate effectively my capacity. I'm hungry and ready to go now. And as a fleet, how do I vet providers? It's very challenging. So using a third party that vets them for me adds some level of interesting value. So as you've built this thing up, you have a multi-sided marketplace. But at the end of the day, it's driving this efficiency for technicians. I'll note this, that the most dangerous place for a trucker to be, is broke down on the side of the road. It's the most dangerous place they can be. Yep. And driving a truck is probably I think it's top 10 most dangerous job in the country. So anything that is driving speed to getting a provider to the driver is a huge value. Let's talk about scale. How many events are you guys dealing with, let's say, on a daily basis?
Right around 8,000.
That's bananas. That is a huge amount of service transactions that you guys are involved with every single day. And you said it's mostly 4 through 8, but do you see this as a big trailer application as well? Or is it really, is it power assets? Where is your real focus?
Yeah. So, we're of class 4 through 8, the preponderance is 6, 7, and 8. And
Okay.
we execute on tractor, trailer, chassis, container, even, straight trucks and so on. So, but an interesting footnote is what you said about the largesse of the marketplace. We're doing 8,000 events a day, and we're still in the single digits of the percentage of the market.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right.
yeah, so that's where we are today.
Did you ever anticipate it would get to where it is now? Like, did you think when you were solving the problem for Schneider that every other fleet had similar challenges of orchestration of the service event?
No, I did not, but over the last few years, there's been a lot of externality pressure going on, Matt, and we may not have enough technicians, or we desperately need greater technician efficiency.
Yeah.
We had the whole COVID thing hit, and there's more pressure on our part of the supply chain. Everybody figure everything's fine until it's not fine.
Yeah.
Planned and unplanned maintenance has become more important, at least I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I always knew that agnostic was going to be important. I always knew that there was a place for this agnostic stock exchange. I'm borrowing from Rahul here.
Yeah.
But I always knew it, Matt, but I never knew how painful it was or how important it would be in our belief that there can be an easy way to raise your hand and say, I want service. And furthermore, to your rather savvy observation, the providers want to say, I got quality people. I got service trucks. I want to do work and knock it out.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know I'm here, and I want to be efficient. And so there's a place for it. Yes.
What I find this so interesting, because I live the world of my mechanic shows up at a facility to do a PM on a trailer, and he sees 4 other fleets in this red tag section with things that are broken. And so the thing is, okay, give me a copy of registration. I'm going to call that people, say, hey, I got my tech. He's there right now. He can help you out with this thing if you'd like. And that was effective. It was very effective, but it was so manual. Right. And your point on technician efficiency is so well taken. In the world of the aftermarket repair and maintenance places I come from, you want a technician, of course, that can do something in a workmanlike manner. It's got to be done right. There's no question. It's got to be done right.
Yep.
But it's also got to be done efficiently. Like if you're changing brakes on a trailer and it's taking you 12 hours to do all 4 tires, like we have a fundamental problem. Like that's an hour per wheel. You have to know this. And so I find that this ability to connect things that had not been connected historically really compelling. And are you finding that for fleets, that gives them more visibility into the services that they're getting done?
Yes, it does. It's in fact, I'll first reference what, the technician or service provider. And if I put a stern look on my face, it's because I'm doing it on purpose. But communication is really what Reach is all about. It absolutely is about communication. What the providers will say, Matt, is tell me exactly where you are and exactly what you need. Mm-hmm. You can't just say I'm in Oak Brook and I have a tire problem. Provider, I need more because I want to be efficient and execute. On the driver's side, again, it's communication. We talk to drivers, we talk to technicians, and what drivers will tell you, Matt, or at least they tell us, is, look, when I have an issue, would I prefer an hour and 15-minute roll time over an hour and 45 or 2 hours? Of course, who wouldn't? Yeah. But what really hurts is when I don't know anything for 45 minutes. I have no proactive communication flow coming to me. Hey, you created your Reach event. We got the event, providers assigned, and now Reach is connecting the technician and the driver. Hey, I'm on my way. Thanks for sending the proactive pictures of the wheel end. Now I know exactly what it is. Communication, Matt. It's really the essence of who we are.
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I know so many times like, hey, my truck broke down. Okay. Right. What else can you tell me about the truck breaking down? Is there a check engine light? Did you lose a tire? Is there some other issue? DOT pull you over? And I would always be struggling with the fleet managers I would work with and saying, hey, give me the DVIR. Like usually it's on site. It didn't break down, but it has a defect and I need a technician out here tomorrow morning. It's okay. Send me the electronic DVIR so I can see what they think is wrong. Are you guys, in terms of the application, consuming information from telematics at this point? Or is that a future state, or how does that work today with the telematics?
Yes, we are consuming telematics. The whole goal there, of course, Matt, is to get ahead, be a part of planned and proactive maintenance, which is a passion in the intermodal space, right? So the answer to your question is yes. And I would also call out Kevin Clark, whom you know, and Ashgar, our CIO. They built our equipment inspections for drivers. They built it as a separate module, which is the exact same thing we use to take in telematics. The reason we do that is because our fleet customers tell us, look, I don't want you to just automatically make every single telematics ping service. Don't want that. What we want is visibility to it, and we want it to be very easy for Reach to let us defer it into next maintenance. Mm-hmm. Or take action on it now, and we want visibility to everything. So it's a long-winded way of saying both driver equipment inspections and telematics are how we are connected. That's taking into our backbone, if you will. It's another bone that's coming into the backbone.
I love it. Like, so last night, my wife and I were sitting on our porch swing, and we were talking about the life of a service event. Like, how does it start? How does it get resolved? And so often, and this is what my wife and I talk about because I love trailers and I love maintenance and repair, but it starts off with an observation, whether the driver observes the issue or the equipment itself has, with a sensor, observed an issue and then set up a fault alert or something like that. And then it becomes an exercise of orchestration, because there's not a single fleet, maybe a very small handful, that would have mobile technicians available for going off and solving problems. I mean, right. Some of them do, but the vast majority would never do that. Maybe they'll have their own mechanics that can fix things in their shops, but they're not running road calls. Some do. But this idea of selecting the right provider at the right time. Is this something that the application does, or is this something that the driver or the fleet manager has some control over? Here are our preferred ones. Here are our secondary. How does that work in terms of understanding which technician is the one that's going to go out there and do that event?
It's a very good question, which you're very good at asking, right? So there's a spectrum in the answer. What we try to do at Reach is provide for the fleet to have it set the way they want it. Okay. So by way of example, Matt, some of our fleet customers want the drivers to only start it at a category level. The dispatch team will pick it up and take it from there based on the fleet's preferences. I would like this tire's preference 1, and here's my network. Okay. So we provide for that. Think medical preferences with your doctors. Okay. We also provide for automation. So we have rules engines that provide for fleets to say, my network is strong. Now I'm going to automate. And we are getting really passionate feedback from our fleet customers who are using the automation because it's allowing their dispatch team to do more work and be more efficient themselves. So it depends on your preference is the answer.
So in essence, like if you're a fleet, you could probably bring some of your own network. And I imagine that for someone to onboard as a vendor, a service provider within Reach, what is that experience like? What is it like to say, I want to become a provider in this network?
Yeah. So we have a great team behind us, Matt. And once we hear that somebody's interested, fleet or provider, we go through a process to get them onboarded. It's an efficient process. And we also, again, we're agnostic, right? So we don't pitch providers to fleets and fleets to providers, but we have good methods for which to make both aware. You know, did you know, right, that on the other side of this exchange, here are folks that are connected digitally, here are folks using Reach, et cetera, et cetera. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. I think the thing I want to highlight here, because for those, again, who don't know the maintenance world, there are platforms where providers pay to be listed at the very top. And
Correct.
So you as a fleet don't actually necessarily know which ones have paid to get to a place, which ones haven't. Is there like a rating system involved, or you could like a fleet can say, I like this person, I'm gonna give them some amount of like 5 stars, or is it something like that?
Yeah, we do. It's very important for us that we stay true to our agnosticism. Okay. So what we do, Matt, is we capture data and we share the data back, and we share it back with fleets in their dashboards, providers in their dashboards, right? We go to lengths to make sure that the data can be consumed and not violently reacted to, right? And so we stay very empirical and objective in that space. But yes, we do provide that feedback. And one add there that is proof positive is that our fleet customers that are using auto dispatch, the automation, they built that on top of their knowledge and Reach's knowledge of who are the performers, because the performers are going to get more of the workload, or your load board concept.
Yeah. Do the providers have to provide evidence that they have insurance? Is that a thing that Reach is doing, validating providers in terms of whether they're covered for the kind of liability that they're going to be taken on?
That is a good question. We are not a middleman in that space, Matt. So we do not vet or set commercial expectations between the stakeholders. However, we have a very important concept in Reach called agreement. An agreement is where you and I can say, okay, Paul gets to do this for these thresholds in these locations, and it's very robust. So we do not set rates and we do not set insurance requirements. That's between the two active players.
So are those two, the fleet and the provider, invoicing each other and talking outside of Reach when they're doing these events in some cases?
It depends on their preference, inside or outside. We have them both.
Let's look at like the fleet side of things. So if I'm a fleet, who's your ideal fleet customer? Is it the small owner operators? Is it megas? Is it everybody?
That's Boy, that's a really tough. I'm a sales guy. Remember? So, yeah, my answer is going to be everybody, right? Oh gosh, tough one. Okay, I'll give it a swag.
Yeah, let's do it.
Our ideal customer is somebody who understands their pain, so that we can be efficient in answering the question. Reach can help you or not, right? I mean, we want to build goodwill here. So our ideal fleet customer is somebody who understands their pain points and believes that being more connected with better communication might be of value to them.
I'm going to have to take a quick comment and put on the board here. This is from a very good friend of the show, Amanda Schuer, TMC chairman, and I think treasurer, and also strategic maintenance director for Jetco. Amanda says all customers should be ideal. Paul,
I said that. I think I said that.
You did. I think we're aligned. I think you bring up a really good point, and I'm going to dovetail just Amanda's enthusiasm for this, which is, if you operate a commercial vehicle and you are traveling interstate, you are going to different places any given day, you probably don't know who to call. You probably don't. You're going to Google it. You might have other providers or breakdown call centers you can do. But if you're trying to find an opportunity to partner with a Reach to help solve problems of unplanned, is that if they understand the value of the platform? If I'm a one truck owner operator, is there value for me in Reach?
I firmly believe so, or I wouldn't be on your podcast. The value. I'm a small fleet girl. Got a rep.
Yeah, she does. We love Amanda. She's phenomenal.
Our fleet customers tend to gravitate toward two questions, Matt. Number one, how easy is it for me to get on and use the software? Yeah. Thankfully for them, they have me, because if I can use it, you can use it.
We had that discussion before going live. Absolutely. So how long is the onboarding? What is the onboarding process?
Again, depends on who you are and how big you are. We have service providers on and using within 45 minutes.
How about for a trucker? How long for a trucker?
About the same. It depends on whether or not they want to load all their assets, and there's a lot that you can use. But if you were just talking blocking and tackling, I want to get on. I want to be able to do the blocking and tackling. It's hours, not days.
Is there a pathway for a motor carrier to share their telematics with you? Like to say, okay, we're going to give you here's the ELD stuff. Are you able to do that?
Yes, we are.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. All right. We have John Radvansky. I'm so sorry. Here's a great question from John. I love John. Curious about liquid tank trailers. So in the world of transportation, we know there are lots of chassis. There's lots of dry vans with swing doors. There's some 28-foot pups with roll-up doors. Liquid tank trailers. I love complicated stuff. What's your opinion, Paul? Does Reach support some of this more specialized equipment?
We are involved with specialized equipment, but I'm gonna earn his goodwill here by saying I don't know the answer to the question. If there's any Reach folks on that know definitively that we do work with that type of trailing asset, I'd ask them to comment. I know Reach is built to handle it, but I don't know for sure, Matt, whether or not that type of equipment is flowing across our exchange.
The point you bring up is actually really, really compelling, which is understanding the strength of your network. And so you've built an incredible platform for a lot of different asset classes. I'd also want to know a clarification on the same thing of car haulers, right? So like there's all these other asset classes. The more we think, I'll ping you and we'll make sure we do a post after this is all done, but other asset classes that are supported because, Kevin Clark chimes in. Yes, we do. Well, there you go, Johnny. We have some support. John Radvansky, I'll just quickly plug him. Probably one of the best consultants in my mind when it comes to the bulk trailer world. Phenomenal resource, phenomenal guy. So that's great to hear. So now we're talking about a trucking company getting onboarded. What do I expect? Is it a pay per service? Is it a subscription model? What am I paying for as a fleet?
So the way that we're built right now is per event transaction. So an event would be a service event or a service repair. Okay. We do believe, Matt, that in the future, as we build out Reach to be appealing to, say, enterprise level, very large fleet customers that may only want to integrate with us, we'll be evolving our pricing approach. But right now it's per transaction.
I love that alignment in terms of utility. When you put this as a transaction-based approach, you're only paying for what you actually use. And that's very compelling.
Yeah, we want to be compelling And it all depends on the circumstance. But there are circumstances with both planned and unplanned maintenance where, man, what would you pay if you were on the side of the road and you were looking for execution?
That's right.
And we also, one other thing that we do is for our providers, the last thing we want is a fleet customer to say, aha, I have a need. It's Leffler. I'm firing it off to him, but you're not the right guy or right person. We don't want that. That's the worst case scenario. So configuration is important. Our providers can configure to great minutia. This is what we do. This is where we do it. They can even take it to the technician level and to the hour. This is what's available. Customers, right? Tire only, tire and mechanical, specialized in welding, etc.
That's an incredible thing to kind of outline, is that when you're trying to coordinate or orchestrate maintenance, you have to know what the underlying network or people are individually capable of doing. And if you have that kind of visibility, because the data exists, it's just in a silo that's completely impenetrable, but you're able to break down these silos and provide some additional insight, which then can drive the action you want to see. What has been the most surprising piece of this journey for you in entrepreneurism and building up a technology company in the coolest industry there is, supply chain?
Well, I can first off, let me not take credit. Everybody around me is what makes, I think, our team and the product special. We have an incredible team, and our leadership team is spectacular. And I'm the least intelligent of the lot. I can tell you that. I just think it's fun to be in an industry that's overlooked, Matt. I like the underdog thing. I like that we're in a tough industry. And I'll tell you something else that's not surprising per se, but I reflect on it. And I hope I don't ruffle feathers when I say this. 5 years ago, I think that most senior level executives, whether it be providers or fleets, would say, hey, we value our drivers and we want their lives to be better, or we value our technicians. We want their lives to be better. Okay. And I'm not saying they weren't being forthright. But what I am saying today, when you talk to C-level executives, they're truly passionate. We must make today better for our fleet drivers.
Yeah.
Like, they're all about it, and they should be. And the same with technicians. So as an industry, we've just got to find solutions. I don't think the tailwinds are going to slow. Yeah. And I think what's been great for me personally is just learning. And we're just a learning machine. And it so happens that we're in transportation software, right?
I love that kind of, first, of course, you have an incredible team that has built something that is unlike, I think, anything else that's out on the market today. I can't emphasize enough how important I think what you guys are doing is right now. Because when we're talking about the experience of a driver, it is a job where you are away from your family in some cases for half the year. And the worst day for a driver in some cases is when you have the unplanned maintenance event. And if your leadership team understands what it's like to be on the side of the road waiting for the technician to show up so you can go home or go to the hotel or go to the parking facility so you can do your reset, it's incredible to see that kind of investment to drive ultimately a better experience. There's another question in the comments here from Matt Tully. I'm going to bring it up on the board here. It says, does the Reach platform offer similar services for other industries that support commercial trucking and intermodal? And I know exactly what Matt's talking about because we talked about this before we went on the show today. Pressure washing, cleaning of assets. Does Reach have the capability to offer, okay, we're going to come out and do some de-identification of units. We're going to do some pressure washing. Are those types of services that Reach supports today, or is that something that might be on the roadmap?
Boy, I'm going to hit up Kevin Clark again if he's on the podcast. I do know that we're doing non-vehicle maintenance. Like we're doing EV charging stations, which we take in via telematics. I believe the answer to his question is yes. But I'd like to make sure, so I'll have Kevin.
We'll keep mounting, but I think the point that Kevin Clark, he's right back up there. There you go. Of course. So they currently do. They're the EV charger for OEMs. Snow scraping. That's a real. Absolutely. We need to expand as necessary. I'll stop for a second on snow scraping. For anyone who is watching this or listening to this, one of the most dangerous things you can ever require a trucker to do is remove the snow and ice from the top of their truck or on the trailer. It's almost impossible on the trailer. The truck, they can kind of do it to an extent, but that is such a dangerous thing to do. And any risk manager who is watching this or listens to this, or even just thinks about, do you want your driver going up there and scraping the snow and ice off? Absolutely, unequivocally, no. The best thing to do is to get a provider, or actually invest in the technology to have something that scrapes it automatically. But this is one of the really important things. And the fact that Reach does that, again, just tells me and reaffirms to me your commitment to drivers. Because if it doesn't work for drivers, it's not going to be successful. If you're doing 6,000 to 8,000 events a day, chances are it's probably working for drivers.
Yeah. So I have a question for you that might help the audience empathize a little bit with how challenging it can be to be a driver. And again, this isn't the entire landscape, but so I'll ask you, Matt, what if I said to you, all right, look, man, you got to get to Los Angeles. You're going to go to O'Hare and you're going to fly out to LAX, and then you're going to make your way somewhere else. But I'm taking your smartphone away from you. I'm taking all your apps away. You have to call the airlines. You have to call Yellow Cab. I'm not disrespecting Yellow Cab, but I'm taking away from you your ability to feed yourself information. I'm taking away from you your ability to get proactive information flow. Would you go insane immediately?
I was probably insane beforehand, but
okay,
I think you bring up a really good point, because every single trucker today carries a supercomputer in their pocket.
100%.
And we've seen this trend of connecting systems. I look at like Four Kites and Project 44 and Trucker Tools and the apps that are all over the place. We don't see anything like that in the maintenance and repair space. It just doesn't exist at scale. And so I think the point you bring up is just how remarkable and valuable it is to leverage the technology that exists today to help drive a better service event.
Yep. And that is exactly the space we're in. It's really, I'll restate, it's really communication, Matt. It's really it. The two most important stakeholders, again, drivers and technicians. And in the middle, a lot of us are transaction cost. We're time and money. And all we're trying to do is help facilitate faster, smoother, more visible and proactive communication flow. That's our purpose.
It has always been that the shop was the biggest black box in supply chain. I brought my truck in. Is it ready? It's still broken. What's wrong with it? It's broken. When will it be done? When it's not broken anymore. And it's like, that doesn't help anybody. But right. Technicians and drivers are on the same they're a similar wavelength. They like and dislike each other the same kind of ways that I think you might with dock workers or brokers. But it just seems to me that when you're able to break down these silos and allow that communication, you have so much less friction in the process. Just telling a driver, whether it's electronically through some breadcrumb or through an actual message from the technician, hey, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I mean, that's peace of mind. Yes. And that's something that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago.
And early on, we got really passionate when we were interviewing drivers, and we were asking, why are you proactively taking photos of the defect when you create the event? And their response was almost like, Paul, you must be an idiot. I mean, they said it, the more information the provider has, the more likely they're to get here faster with the right parts and not ask me a bunch of questions. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that makes all the sense in the world. But it was behavior that neither the fleet dispatch or management or Reach had prompted. It was a natural behavior to say, what can I do to help expedite this?
Absolutely.
Pretty awesome.
One of the worst feelings in the world when you're doing a service call is to not have the right part. Now, sometimes you're probably not going to always have the right airbag, but you're going to have probably a 7-way, probably plenty of mud flaps. So the most common things that are needed to be repaired, you can be prepared for those things. Are you seeing any increase on the truck side? So things like emissions and derating of trucks. Like, are you guys starting to get into more of the tractor problems, or are you still like what's the things seeing grow the most?
No, we are absolutely into power units, if that's your question.
Yeah.
Yep, we're absolutely involved in power units. We're starting to get more involved with the telematics equation, if you will. I like to joke a little bit. I've given a couple presentations over time, and I think our industry, telematics is incredibly important. And artificial intelligence, Matt, and all those really cool terms, they're all really important. But I don't think we're going to have autonomous technicians for a long time. Probably not my lifetime. So somehow, some way, you have to take the data and create the actionable insight, and then you have to act on it. It doesn't stop here. A person has got to be out there with their service truck repairing the unit and closing the loop. So we're pretty excited about being a small part of telematics and knowing our swim lane.
I will emphasize just how right I think you are. The automation of the supply chain, manufacturing, warehousing, it's deep in that space now. It's coming for over-the-road trucking, whether it's middle mile, whether it's just yard management. And when those assets have a problem, there's not a driver who's going to report that. That is a sensor that is sending out a code that's going to be consumed, and then be able to consume that fault code and then understand, to your point earlier, of who's the right technician at the right place, probably for the right cost, to get them out to solve it. So everything in our industry in terms of innovation is all predicated upon being able to communicate those innovations when they fail to the technicians that service them. Because you can do it right for a minute, but if you don't service it right, it's done. It doesn't work. So I love how the platform has evolved from being really a communication tool for drivers and their dispatchers and the mechanics to the future state of maintenance, the future state of connected services. Let's talk about the future. Where do you see Reach going in the next 5-10 years? What kind of things do you think are going to be really important for you guys?
Well, the continuation of the trajectory we're on, Matt, to continue to grow the network of connected partners, to continue to be agnostic and humble, which is to say, people want to use our UI and our features, great. If they don't and they only want to integrate, great. We want to be accommodating and flexible. We want to be the stock exchange because we believe the market craves one. We'll see how that all plays out. We absolutely want to continue to embolden the network and embolden how flexible we are for fleets so that we can be that converter engine for telematics, right? The data comes in, the insight is generated, and there's little old Reach to say, gotcha. We'll take the insight, we'll convert it to action for you. And I also think, with all due respect, I think the marketplace, Matt, overshoots. There's billions in telematics. There's billions in the cool stuff of machine learning and artificial intelligence and prescriptive analytics. All of that is truly awesome. However, this is a blocking and tackling industry, man. And college football is on its way. But this is blocking and tackling, and we've got to be able to execute at the ground level, one piece of equipment, one technician, one driver. So I'm excited about where we are, and I'm excited about us staying humble, curious, and energetic. If we can do those three things as a team, we're going to have fun.
I am so excited to see how the connected service landscape evolves over the next few years. I look at the automation that we see, and all of that is, like, to your point, is really compelling. The machine learning, optimization, all the artificial intelligence, what can be done. But at the end of the day, a human being with a wrench is what makes the supply chain work. And if you don't have technicians that are productive, that is a massive deficit for the industry, because we know the truck driver shortage is a controversial topic,
right?
But technician shortage is the reality of our experience. That is what it is right now. And if you can't make more technicians, you can certainly make more technicians more productive. And these technologies would drive that. So I'm very excited to see where you guys go. And I think on the tailwind side, like, I'm obsessed with autonomous trucks. In my mind, deregulation in 1980 began this pathway of independent contractors and the fragmentation of the market. But automation will be the kind of the next phase in this industry. And even if automation comes for certain parts of the supply chain, it will not come for the mechanics.
No.
We're still going to be turning those wrenches, whether it's 2 a.m. on the side of the highway or at 3 a.m. or at 2 any time of day, you're going to be fixing something. Do you guys see this as something with like other asset classes? So you talked about class 1 through 8. What about forklifts? What about other material handling things?
Yes. The answer to the question from an architecture standpoint, as Kevin pointed out, Reach is built to handle really any equipment type, including non-vehicle, right?
Yeah.
That said, reflect on your first opening comments. There is a lot of work for us to do in a giant marketplace as a small fish. We have tons to do in even just class 4 through 8. So that is to say, I think you'll see that our focus continues to be commercial trucking.
That's awesome. Well, for fleets who want to learn more about Reach 24, where can they go? Where does someone go to learn more about becoming a customer or learning about what it's like to collaborate with you and your team?
Yeah, so kind of the usual avenues, I would say. Our website is reach24.net, and we've got great collateral on there. We're also on LinkedIn, Matt, and we'll be tied in more to you and what you're doing, so your network gets exposed to us. But I'd say visit our website or send us an email at explore@reach24.net, and we'll jump on it. And to her earlier point, all potential customers are good customers. We're in.
Absolutely. I will make sure to put all of that in the show notes for someone to reach out. And would that be the same for a service provider if they want to become part of that?
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, I'm so excited. Where are you going to be? Any conferences you're looking to attend relatively in the near future?
Yes, I'll be at the Intermodal Association Conference in Long Beach in mid-September. That's the big one coming up in the next 30 to 60 days. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, I'm on the fence on that one, but I will absolutely make sure any of my friends that are going to be out there checking it out. Paul, I want to thank you again for making time today. What you've built with Reach, I think, and you and your team have created is something the market has been begging for. They just didn't know how to ask for it. And so I'm excited to see the next few years as time goes on. Oh, and Amanda, I'm going to plug TMC too. She says you should go to the TMC conference in September.
Yeah, and TMC, by the way, TMC in Nolens was spectacular. Absolutely love that. Yes, sorry about that. Yes, September. I will be there. And Matt, we really, as a whole team, we appreciate you. We appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. I was pretty nervous, I told you, but I brought Ted Lasso with me. So it kind of calmed me down. So we really appreciate it. We love talking about the story.
This is the part of the supply chain that I think is the most unsung of all the aspects of it. And I think anybody, you are part of this group, anyone who's out there talking about the life experiences of truck drivers when it relates to maintenance or unplanned downtime or what it's like to be a service provider. It is very difficult. It is very difficult to do this kind of stuff day in and day out. And anybody who's out there trying to fill the dance card, so to speak, of providers to make sure they have profitable work that they can do consistently is phenomenal. And so I am so excited to see where you guys take this thing. And I'm going to be eagerly watching as you continue to roll out innovations. Thank you so much, Paul. For last thing before we go, where can people find more about you? Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I have a personal page as well as Reach Vantage Solutions on LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be a great place. We all use it, so that would be ideal, Matt.
Okay, well, I will make sure all that is in the show notes. I want to thank you again. If you can stick around for just a second, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, but thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That is the conclusion of my conversation with the one and only Paul Burgoyne. I cannot tell you how excited I am to talk with people in the space, in the maintenance and repair industry, that are trying to make the lives of drivers and mechanics better. It is difficult under even the best circumstances to safely deliver freight on time and undamaged. What tools are available 50 years ago They're different now. And the technologies to solve these problems is getting better every single day. I encourage you to check out Reach 24. We'll put all of this in the show notes, and there's some in the comments here. Thank you for tuning in. As always, a huge shout out to my partners over at DAT, Dial a Truck. Since 1978, DAT has been helping truckers find work, find loads, get to the next destination. That's a critical part of our supply chain. And that's why you can't offshore it. You can't get rid of it. Truck drivers are going to be here for the foreseeable future. And of course, so will the mechanics. Thank you as always for tuning in. If you're going to be attending Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference, come and see me. We'll talk about non-competition agreements. As always, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. And I hit the button and it goes away and it's done.